Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Today we have the coach of the number one doubles player in the world on, Philip Farmer. Philip, welcome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And for people who may not know who you are, give a little bit about your background. You're coaching Austin Krajicek now. I know you've coached the Bryan Brothers in the past. Talk a little bit more about like your tennis background, what you've done the last 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, so I've been coaching on tour for the most part of 20 some plus years, 21, 22 years.
Hmm.
Started out of college pretty early, went to Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma, and tried to play on the satellite tour back then and played for less than a year and realized how, deep and competitive and international it was. And I had the passion for it and just kind of wanted to stay in that arena. And so I kind of pivoted and was living in Houston and based with my coach at that time out of the Met downtown club. And basically, he had a
Hmm.
couple of amazing pros there, Tara Snyder and Tommy Ho. And so I kind of was around them and that atmosphere. And so I kind of pivoted and took that passion and said, well, maybe I can have that competitiveness and the drive on the pro tour as a coach. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, in that time, I've been very blessed, very fortunate to coach some incredible players and incredible people. Um, like I mentioned, Tara Snyder, Tommy Ho, um, and then a good friend of mine, Andrew Painter, Australian, and then Corina Morariu.
Hmm.
Really cool story as I got to coach her in her comeback from leukemia. Karina was a world number one doubles player on the women's tour, playing with Davenport and phenomenal talent. So that was a fun experience
Hmm.
working with her, and then from there, I coached Graydon Oliver, who was practicing quite a bit. He was top 30 in the world in doubles and practicing quite a bit with Bob and Mike Bryan at the time, and so that's how I got to know them. And actually was helping Bob a little bit with singles at a challenger, and
Okay.
him and I clicked. And then soon after that, with Mike, it was just a great chemistry with the three of us. And so was fortunate to coach them from 2003 to 2005,
Hmm.
and we won our first Grand Slam together in 2003, so 20 years ago, winning
Yeah.
the French. And then with that, they became the co number one doubles players in the world. So it's a really special story with them and now Austin, who are three of very close friends as well, and just
Hmm.
great people. For Austin to accomplish that 20 years later. So yeah, so the Bryan brothers for several years, and then just had the opportunity to coach Sam Querrey, um, John Isner, Shahar Pierre, some great singles players. And
Yeah.
then years ago, Hans Hotch Verdugo, who I've been
Hmm.
working with kind of as a home base coach while he goes out and plays a tour. He's doubles only for the last about 5 years. And he said, "Hey, Austin Krajicek moved to Plano. He lives here now." And I go, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, his wife. They were in College Station, and she got a job here in locally in Plano. And man, I
Uh-huh.
think you guys would be a great fit. I think he's without a coach right now, and kind of looking for a new direction. And so he set up a workout, and we just clicked right from the beginning. And that was basically right before Wimbledon, um, 2021.
Okay.
And it's been a couple years now, and we've got great chemistry on and off the court, and we're both extremely driven in accomplishing goals. And it's just been a absolute joy to coach somebody that is that passionate about their craft, and like I said, professional, very loyal, very respectful, and very open to getting better, getting coaching, and
Hmm.
trying to accomplish the goals we've been able to knock out in the 2 years. So it's been a
Yeah.
pleasure working.
Yeah. It's been fun to follow and fun to watch him as well. I'm curious. So you've coached obviously a lot of top doubles players and teams. And then you've also worked with Sam Querrey. You mentioned John Isner, who's also a really good doubles player, it turns out. We learned the past couple of years. Do you consider yourself a doubles coach or just a tennis coach? How do you kind of view that?
Yeah, you know what? I got asked that recently in an interview, so it's a good question, and I like to consider myself as a tennis coach. I
Yeah.
love coaching tennis. I've like I said, I've coached men's, I've coached women, I've coached
Hmm.
juniors, I've coached beginner adults at clubs.
Hmm.
I've coached the juniors in the junior program. I've helped out with the Pee Wee little kids. I mean, I've been a director of tennis and managed people in the business operations.
Hmm.
Um, and I've coached singles and doubles, and so I've kind of done it all in terms of just really, being open and flexible to working with any players, and I feel like that's helped me
Hmm.
in my craft and sharpen the eye, sharpen my tools, and I really just enjoy helping people get better. And
Yeah.
I really enjoy with coaching is connecting with that individual person or that team or that group of ladies or group of men or group of kids, and just learning how to connect, because each player comes from such a different background of how they were maybe taught.
Hmm.
They're obviously, as we all are, we're wired different. We all have a different
Yeah.
DNA makeup. And so for me, the challenge of connecting with them, having them enjoy it, having them improve, and see if we can get from A to B, and that method, that vehicle of how you get the information to the player has always really intrigued me and motivated me to the craft of coaching and mentoring. And so I would say I'm not a doubles coach. Obviously I think I got that maybe a little bit of that label with the Bryan brothers when I started coaching them, and that progress started happening
Hmm.
for all these years, and obviously they were doubles for a majority of that, almost all of it, and probably came up with that label, and that's fine. There was nothing wrong with it. If somebody thinks that now, I don't
Yeah.
encourage it. It's I love doubles. I love the teamwork about doubles, but I also love working with the singles guys like Corina and Tara and Sam Querrey and John Isner recently. So I love the
Hmm.
strategy and X's and O's behind that as well.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Roland Garros for a bit. So Austin and Ivan just won last year. They make the finals. They have some championship points. They don't get it done. And I asked Austin this last week. I talked to him, and that podcast is releasing later this week. Um, so I asked him this question already, but I'm curious from the coach's perspective, what was different about 2023 from 2022? Is there anything that you changed or that you feel like y'all changed as a team, um, that you maybe learned in 2022 that you implemented differently? Just compare those 2 years to each
Yeah,
other.
yeah. I mean, another great question. I think first and foremost, when you go through the experience of being in his first Grand Slam final, he had also, at the end of the year, they qualified for Turin. So there's
Hmm.
more big moments, big matches there. And then, finaling, a few of the Masters events and being in those situations,
Hmm.
playing in Davis Cup, his first Davis Cup tie after Australia, playing in the Olympics with Tennis Sangren and being in the semifinals and having, two difficult matches. He lost both of those, so he didn't medal. So he had obviously both matches to get the medal.
Hmm.
3 points, match points in the finals, as you said, of Roland Garros, losing a couple tough Masters finals. And so, although those were extremely painful to go through and lose, it made them tougher. It made them smarter, stronger, and I would say more comfortable for the big stage in those big moments. In my opinion, I think the elite players, are the ones that can really separate themselves and execute and handle the big moments and the big pressure. and stay relaxed, stay free, stay calm. We talk a lot about that, being really free out there, upper body, and staying nice and loose, nice and relaxed. And so, I think because he went through those experiences, he was more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And he was nervous in the finals. Of course, you're always nervous, but I think he was able to process and handle it, and kind of, you could see at that 3-all game this year in the
Yeah.
finals, and Yvonne had a break point against him, and Austin hit 2 big forehand winning volleys, and you could see he kind of got pumped up. He released it, and then from there, I'm like, okay, he's got it. I could tell, and I think last year helped in that regards. Um, as far as kind of his game, yeah, we're always tinkering, we're always looking at making little improvements, and he's so open to it, and unbelievable work ethic. We've brought our physios. We've got a trainer back here at home, Juan that Robles that he works with, and out of SMU and Lakes here. He We also, like I said, travel him and Yvonne with unbelievable physios and a trainer there. So investing in his body, investing in his craft. He's always very good at. And some of the changes we've made is just in terms of his game, is exploring the box a little bit better and more on his serve, first and second. And so for those out there that maybe don't know exactly what that means, it's just, being able to step up to the deuce side as a lefty and hit it, wide on the deuce, which is a little tougher for lefties, not forgetting about the body serves. And then on the ad side, the swinger wide lefty, but then also being able to hit the tee as well, that point of view. Utilizing the punch lob on returns. If you notice doubles now in the men's, there's so much eye formation and everybody's so close to the net that the lob very, very effective on the return. And then the other kind of thing that we've implemented a little bit more on every surface is effective against players that you see more often. The competition, they stay back more because conditions are a little slower at these tournaments for the most part. So the dump volley, and not necessarily the drop volley, but just halfway in the box. Doesn't have to be a perfect drop shot, but just being able to absorb a ball from these really good baseliners and just kind of dump it short and force them to come out of their comfort zone and move to a different spot they're less comfortable with. Passing and lobbing has been a huge addition to Austin and his game since last year. So I would say those are kind of the main areas, from experience to the mental side, and then those few little kind of additions to his skills.
Yeah. I love the dump volley specifically. I think that's one I've added to my game the last couple of years, and it's so good, especially at the club level, because they're not quite as fast, so they can't get to it a lot of the time anyways. But that, as well as the lob return, I feel like are super, super important.
You wouldn't think the lob's very, for the listeners out there, the lob is such a great play, and you see it a lot more at the club level. Because maybe at the club level you're dealing with some movement. Maybe maybe there's some older players that still love to play, but the thing that goes probably the quickest is not necessarily timing or shot ability, making ability, is just the speed and the movement. The physical part of tennis. So the lob becomes really important at the country club or club level. And so keep utilizing that lob out there because it's one of the hardest shots, the overhead in tennis, especially under pressure. But also they'll start seeing that as they watch a lot of the men's pro doubles now, and especially my players, is we implement that. I call it that punch lob return, just meaning they hit a serve and you just kind of punch it up. Doesn't have to be the best lob in the world, like I said, but it forces these teams to have to respect it and not close so tight, and then it opens up the gaps for the regular cross court and down the line returns. And so, now that the club players that use it quite a bit, they can kind of see how it does create successful moments in the pro tennis, pro doubles as well.
Yeah, and the thing you said there about it opening up other points, I think, is super important for people to hear, because a lot of times in doubles as well as singles, right? You'll be implementing a specific tactic on a certain point that may not win that point, but it might open something up for later points, right? So
100%.
maybe you leave that lob a little short and they get back for the overhead, you lose the point. But if they know you're willing to hit that, maybe they're a little more hesitant to move at the net.
And about at again, club level, pro level, college level, the two most popular shots in tennis that you know you have to start every point with: serve and return, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
if you think about what we talked about with Austin and his improvements, exploring the box, right,
Yeah.
being able to hit all the different spots, being able to return variety, using the lob, using the down the line, using the cross
Mm-hmm.
court, coming in off some returns. Once again, variety on the serve, variety on the returns. And to your point, Will, like in both of those cases of the two most common, most popular shots, you're basically showing your opponent you have different options and different variety. Therefore, on big moments and
Mm-hmm.
in big points, and especially in doubles, there's the margins are small, and the differences are it's a fine line. So on those big moments, they have to really respect all options, and so
Yeah.
it gives a little bit of an edge having those different tools in your belt.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't know what you're going to do. Um, so I asked Austin about how he prepared the day before the finals, or really any big match, whether it's a semifinal, final, Master 1000.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he talked about how he does like to watch a lot of film. And I've had some players on who say, you know, they focus on themselves. They're not as into the film or analytics, and some players who are kind of all in on it. What about you from a coaching perspective? They win the semifinal. Do you go straight to your notes on that team they're playing in the finals and immediately just start watching the recent film of the matches, or how do you? I guess what's your process to prepare the team between that semifinal and final?
Yeah, and this is kind of what I was saying earlier about every player, every doubles team, and even the team
Mm-hmm.
that's with them. For example, obviously, Ivan Dodig's our partner. His brother Misho is the coach, and they've
Okay.
been many years. So we have our physio, our train. So we're all a team, and so one thing that I love about coaching is understanding the DNA of our team and the DNA of our players and my player. And so, with Austin, as he told you, he likes to watch film.
Mm-hmm.
He is more analytical, likes to study and look for trends and patterns. And so, Misho is also Yvonne's brother and coach, is also wired a lot like that. He likes to
Mm-hmm.
watch where to serve and all that stuff on the opponents. And so, I still do my homework on that. I like to watch live. So I like to go and watch the earlier rounds or the round before who we're going to play the winner of, and I like to see it live. So, for example, I watched the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that match live. I was there
Okay.
in the stands. I want to see the energy. I want to see the body language. And so I'm a little bit more wired that way, where I like to kind of see it live and in person. I'll go
Yeah.
over a few notes, but knowing that Yvonne's brother's wired that way and Austin is kind of similar, analytical, and Yvonne and I are kind of a little bit more alike when it comes to that component, where we we kind of like to think about the players and getting them feeling good. And
Mm-hmm.
so Yvonne's a little more relaxed. Some slams he'll take a day off in between. I know he
Okay.
did last year before after the quarterfinal win. He took a day off and rested. But I kind of like to spend a little bit more of my time with that team on the days off of preparing them mentally of what is our brand, how are we wanting to play, and also keeping them relaxed and light and free on those days off.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of my biggest strengths is understanding the DNA, understanding, what our players need and what's coming up. And so one trend that was happening all tournament, we were down 3-1 in the third, first round, ended up winning a
Yeah.
break. Another three setter in the quarters. And so we had been battling. and we had turned a lot of the matches into doubles matches. In other words, we had faced teams that would, like Tim Quetz, would serve and stay back. The first round team, Baez and his partner stayed back, and
Mm-hmm.
and so in those situations, we're trying to neutralize the return or even take second serves and come in behind it. And
Mm-hmm.
so one message I kept repeating to them is, hey, turn it into doubles match. You guys are one of the best doubles teams in the world. You both volley tremendous. Let's build that wall at the net. If we lob, let's get in. If they stay back and you hit your return, get in on it. If you don't get in on the return, don't get caught in rallies. Take the rhythm away and come in and make them have to feel the pressure of imposing your will and your game on these guys. And I think that was a really big factor in the run to winning Roland Garros. If you look at the finals, those guys serve and stay back quite a bit.
Yeah.
And if you watched us, we were looking to come in, looking to take over the net. And so for me, I kind of stressed that importance and focused on how we want to play those moments and those big key situations and those matches, what our game and what our strength is, and get them really believing it, being confident and comfortable with it. And I felt like that could get us the trophy.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's interesting to hear how you work with Ivan's team as well. Because that was one of my next questions. Is like, how do y'all, he has his own coach and his own team, and then how do you kind of integrate that and come up with
Yep.
a team strategy rather than having like two individuals? Kind of obviously it's double, so they have to somehow work together, right?
Yeah, no question. And it's pretty common. You'll see that women's
Yeah.
tour, and there's times you'll obviously have the Bryan brothers. I coach both of them,
Hmm.
and you see both situations that can work. And with our case, Ivan has had his brother for a while. I'd been with Austin a few years, so when they linked up, we obviously keep our individual coaches, and then we really work together, and we're a cohesive group. We think a lot alike. Our styles very similar, aggressive,
Hmm.
playing aggressive brand of doubles from I formation, poaching, a lot of movement, and mixing in the intangibles of the dump volley, the lob, and things like that. We've
Yeah.
implemented serving smart in certain situations and things like that. We bounce the ideas off each other. Misho and I come up with the game plans, and we'll talk before. But it's just it flows really well together. Obviously, the more time as we've been with each other, which is now a year, and like I said with Austin, the moments that we've shared together, um, the experiences of the different finals and different wins and losses and titles and tough finalists. You learn from each other, and you kind of learn how each other ticks, and so it's been a really good situation. The other great thing, the final thing about our team, which is really beneficial, is Misho just had his baby, probably 3 months, 4 months before I had my son, and
Okay.
so it's a nice combination. Also, them being in Croatia and over there in Europe. Um,
Uh,
Misho will take a lot of those tournament loads, so I can be with my young son and my wife. And right now, Misho was over there for Queens as they
hmm.
got their title yesterday, and uh, and then he'll be with them in Eastbourne as they play, and hopefully get some matches in as well before Wimbledon. I leave Thursday to join the team, and we'll be there for Wimbledon. And then later in the summer, as it comes back to swing to the U.S., Misho will now stay home with his wife and child. And I think he's got his best friend's wedding, and that way he has family and friends and time with his child. And while I take more of the load, as it's easier to travel back here in the States to those tournaments. So from that standpoint, we kind of have a nice flexibility there with the coaching staff with us, and being able to
Hmm.
be at least one of us there for almost the whole season with our players, and both of us there at the big ones.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds like a good setup. So I wanted to ask one more question about kind of your coaching process. How has it changed? So you have um, you talked about '03 to '05 working with the Bryan brothers. What has changed for you since then in your process for either getting a team ready for the season or for a particular match? Is there anything specific you've kind of learned and changed since then?
I would say that connecting to the player and that importance, as I told you, for me, and the challenge and the motivation of I'm very competitive, very driven, and those goals to the players are really also very, very important to me as a coach in my craft of winning slams and you know you know coaching another number one. Like that's really important to me because
Mm-hmm.
I love helping the player. And I also have my goals and as a personal goals and coaching goals. And so that hasn't changed much. I'm still very driven. I still love my connection with the players, the relationship. I love the challenge of how to get the information to the player. Um, what I would say is what's really changed is just the game. The singles game is just more physical. The movement and the agility, taking care of your body, learning to be more balanced on a tennis court, and separating the lower body, which is intense and physical, and going crazy from the upper body, which I believe should be more fluid and light and free and relaxed. So you've got two components kind of needing to work together, but they're doing very different things. So,
Mm-hmm.
I've focused a lot more on that over the years. I've focused on how to become better players without the ball. I'm big on that theme. If you think about singles, I hit the ball, you hit the ball, I hit the ball, you hit the ball, and so you've really hit the ball 50% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at the other side of it. 50% of the time in singles, you are not hitting a tennis ball,
Right.
but you're match. So how do you add value when you're not hitting? Well, doubles, the percentage is even higher. I hit the ball, then the other three people are not hitting. Then they hit the ball on the other side. Well, still three people are not hitting every given moment. So on average, 75% of the time in doubles, you're not even hitting a ball while you're playing.
Right. Yeah.
And most people don't look at the analytics that way. And I've always, or I've learned over the years as my coaching style has gone on to adapt with the game, adapt with the modern technology, adapt with the speed, the I formation. Now players are playing I formation more, so now the lobs come back and play.
Mm-hmm.
The game changes, and I think you must have some things that are fundamental, but also you must adapt. The dump volley. It used to be, when Bob and Mike first started, in
Mm-hmm.
2003. Most of it was regular formation. You ripped the cross court return. You came in more because you had more time. You faced a lot more certain volleyers,
Mm-hmm.
and you volleyed deep and you volleyed through the middle.
Yeah.
Nowadays, 20 years later, we're working on with Austin and Ivan lobbing the return more. Tons of I formation we play. Dump the volley, not as many deep volleys because you're facing more baseliners that are comfortable with passing, lobbing from back there. And now instead of middle, that used to be the kind of the play back in the day with Bob Mike or even with Austin at Texas A&M in college tennis.
Mm-hmm.
More of a what's the word I'm looking for? A not standard way to play, but I'm blanking on my words here, but you're playing a certain style that worked for a long time that
Okay. Yeah.
most people are playing, which is through the middle. And so
Mm-hmm.
now it's off the court. Get the volley when you come up out of I formation, when you poach, angle it off, go for the single sidelines and get the ball to the side fence. It's not through the middle as much. And
Yeah.
so that standard way of volleying deep and volleying through the middle is not as successful anymore as it used to be. And so, the game's evolved. You must evolve as a player, as a coach. The speed, you're playing more baseliners, more singles guys play doubles now. Um, uh, and so you just, you have an open mind. You try to think outside the box. And that's why I love hey, how are we becoming better without the ball? Are we reading the play a little bit earlier? Are we recovering and resetting? I call it hit the reset button. In other
Mm-hmm.
words, don't get caught being a spectator out there just because you're only hitting 25% of the time in doubles. Make sure you're always aware, make sure your switch is on and that you're really resetting and you're recovering and you're ready and you're always kind of looking for the next ball. So that's kind of how I feel like it's changed as far as coaching and what to look for and how the game's changed.
Yeah. Are you coaching that with film? Are you sitting down with Austin and saying, okay, we've got these 3 points and you're not resetting like I'd like you to be, and here's the film of that and let's go execute it. Or is it like on the court in a practice set, you're
Mm-hmm.
stopping him and how do you actually coach that kind of off the ball uh movement or positioning or whatever it might be?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think of it as like a recipe. You're making let's just say a salad, and sometimes you might put more protein in it, less vegetables, tomatoes,
Mm-hmm.
cucumber, whatever. And sometimes you want it with a lot of dressing. Sometimes you might be less dressing and more vegetables, less protein, and just depending on what you need, what you're feeling like. And so both of those process very important.
Mm-hmm.
Watching film, everything is readily available, as really well with a lot of the studying and research that you do so well, the analytics. So I use like a recipe. I'll use a little bit of analytics. I'll use research, studying it live, watching film with Austin without it. He watches it, I watch it. We come together, Micho and I talk about different strategies. But then we also play practice sets. We also play situational practices where, hey, let's play, you only get one serve. Hey, let's play a set where every other game you got to do something different on the return. So one game you try to be aggressive and literally hit winners. And then the next return game, you got to lob and hit kind of, chip everything and
Mm.
play
So
kind of a,
so for the entire game, you'll have him do that?
yeah, yeah, just
Okay.
different. We'll play a
Yeah.
lot of break because in doubles that obviously the format's no ad. And then if you
Right.
split sets, which at this level is so competitive, it's very common to get in that super 10-point breaker. So we practice a lot of tiebreakers. And so I think it's what we're needing. We need more match play and to work on things on feeling it and experiencing it on the court. Then we'll do more practicing. We've got a lot of matches in, and I feel like he needs to see it visually from a different set of eyes and backing out of it a little bit. Then we'll watch film and we'll go over those key points and what we're trying to work on and improve. And so a combination of all of them is very, very critical, very important. And then recognizing when you need to mix up the percentage of that recipe of what you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to do. And that's where I think, a coach comes in and managing that and knowing when those times are and what those percentages and those recipes are.
Sure. So for somebody listening, let's say there's somebody listening and they're saying, okay, I never lob on the return. This is something I want to add to my game.
Yeah.
Where would you start them? It's something I've added to my own game the last like 5 years, and unfortunately, I don't have the time to get out and do a lot of drills. So I just do it in practice matches. But let's say it's a club level player. They're on the court maybe 4 to 6 hours a week or something.
Yeah.
Where would you start them as far as adding the lob return to their game?
Yes. Yeah, that's a good question because not only, obviously people, they have families, they have jobs.
Yeah.
It's not their profession. So like you said, 4 to 6 hours a week is just really all it's all about the time. Right. And
Hmm.
so, you know, that's the challenge for, I think, the club player
Yeah.
is you don't have the time. The other thing also is, going out and hitting a bucket serves and exploring the box and hitting serves you're not comfortable with. That's not and hitting punch lob returns.
Yeah.
Hey, grab your buddy, grab your partner for the league. Can you serve me like 45 minutes? I'm just going to work on lobbing. Like that's not the most enjoyable part when you don't
Yeah.
have that many hours to play. You know, if it's not your job and you just enjoy tennis, you really want to get out there and compete, and you want to like play the game and score and run around and move and all that stuff, exercise. And so those are the challenges for the club player. And I think what you have to do is, hey, if you're investing that time into tournaments and you're playing leagues and you really want to win, then, you know, I understand you have less hours, but think of that recipe. Take a percentage of those hours. If it's 4 hours, take 30 minutes out of that weekly time,
Mm-hmm.
and work on it in a practice set where that's all you do for that one set or every other game, like I talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Or take 30 minutes and have your partner, or take a 30-minute lesson from the local pro and work on some of those intangibles, the dump volley, maybe serving to a spot in one of the box or both the boxes you're not as seasoned or favorable for, or the
Mm-hmm.
punch lob. Just work on it, and then take that. Maybe you do that once a month, you know, an hour lesson a month, or 30 minutes here and there every 3 weeks, and then take that into your weekly matches and more fun competitive practices, and
Mm-hmm.
and work on it there as kind of where I would first start. And just remember, you're investing in your game, whether it's a
Yeah.
private lesson, 30 minutes of time with a partner or a buddy. You need to just be able to think of it as an investment back into your game to round out your game, make you a better player, and also help your winning percentage. Um, and so I would definitely start there. And then the last thing I would say is, and I talk about this with Austin, do it early and often in matches. If you want to poach and we're working on it, do it at the beginning. You want to go down the
Mm-hmm.
line on a return or punch a lob, do it early, because as it gets later into those crucial moments, it's hard to just go, okay, now I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Use it early, use it more often as you're working on it, and don't be afraid to lose the point doing it. You may
Yeah.
not win the point, but again, it's about the big picture and what it sets up for you in your game. And so don't be afraid if it doesn't work. Don't be afraid if you're not winning enough points, um, and be open-minded about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that advice to do it early because there's a little less pressure and
Mm-hmm.
you know, even if, like you said, if you don't get away with it, then it shows them you're willing to do it at least.
Yeah.
So it could help out later on in the match. So I want to stay on the topic of return strategy. Are you still good on time? Do you need a
I am. You bet,
You
man.
are? Okay. So I wanted to stay on the topic of return strategy. So when we first met briefly at World Team Tennis, it was in
Uh-huh.
2021, I believe,
Sure was.
and Austin was playing with Steve Johnson, and
Mm-hmm.
Austin was returning in the ad court. And I asked you, you know, typically forehands in the middle is going to be best. And you
Yeah.
said, well, what we're doing with them is we're prioritizing the return because it's a more important shot than the fourth ball of the rally or the sixth ball and so on. And Steve returns better in the deuce court. I think you said Austin returned from the ad court in college, um, or maybe he's comfortable either way. Uh,
Yeah. No, you're right.
talk
He played
talk
most
talk
of his career.
about talk a little more about like return strategy in general, how you choose a return side. And then if you have like any advice for club level players with the return, outside of the lob return that we just talked about.
Yeah. No, good points. Yeah, you know, I think obviously Bob and Mike were most familiar and successful with forehands in the middle. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Lefty, righty, you have that advantage. And so, you know, with Austin having a lefty and typically playing with righties, Austin played, you were right, most of his career on the ad. And so if he got kicked wide, you know, or a lefty slides him wide, he's got the forehand out there. And same thing if a right-hander slides Stevie Johnson wide when he's playing the deuce, he's more comfortable, you know, because he's got that forehand wing on the outside. Also,
Mm-hmm.
serves and stays back. And so, you know, he can hit that forehand as he moves to his left just as well as when he moves right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for them that worked. And when you and I spoke, you hit it right on the head there. You know, for them who didn't play week in and week out, it was just more efficient for them to have their better return feel sides where they're confident
Mm-hmm.
and be able to swing away there. And I think it worked for them. And then Stevie would just cover most of that middle um, with his forehand because he just moves so well.
Yeah.
And so ideally, I prefer like Bob and Mike, and now Austin and Yvonne, where the forehands are in the middle. And the reason is because you can take advantage off of good returns with the forehand volley, which typically you have more of the reach, you have more
Mm-hmm.
of a strong grip and a stronger volley, and so you can be more effective. And but with saying that, also, if your forehands are in the middle third of that doubles court is the most popular part of that court, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the most high percentage.
Right.
And so, if now your weaker sides or your less strong side, which is the backhands on the outside, or in the alleys, well, that's a more dangerous shot to try for those opponents to try to kind of thread the needle on those volleys.
Mm-hmm.
And it forces them to have to go for a little bit more into like I said, the higher risk spots of the real estate part of the court. And it's over the higher part of the net. And so players typically will make more errors if they try to, well, I got to get to Austin's backhand on the outside. Austin A can be quick and run around it if they don't get it wide enough. And so you just have a lot more variety and you put a lot more pressure on the opponents to hit it in those wide zones. And
Mm-hmm.
so therefore you get players that kind of hit it more through that bigger middle third of the court, and then we can rip forehands, and then the guy at the net can be active and visual, put the pressure on with the forehand volley. So I prefer that for all players, club level, even um,
Mm-hmm.
college level, pro level. I probably prefer it more for the college, elite junior college, professional level, where they're doing more damage with poaching and faking at the net. If you're more of a beginner intermediate club player where you're not as active, maybe you don't have the speed, and so you don't like the net as much. I would say, well, then find the side that you're more comfortable returning, because that's the first shot that starts the point. And if
Right.
it happens to be backhands in the middle, then so be it. In that case, if you're not winning enough points with that pressure at the net, then it makes more sense to do what's more confident and comfortable on the return to get in the point. So, that's the beautiful part about coaching. And a beautiful part about doubles and tennis and strategy is that there's more than one way to do it. And, there's different, game plan A and B you can go to, and you can switch after the set. And so
Mm-hmm.
that gives you a lot of variety.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I want to talk serve strategy real quick. So a lot of people listening, and when I go to, I'll go watch USTA tournaments or league matches, and I just don't see that many people using serve formations. Um, it's typically going to be just regular formation.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll see a team use Australian, rarely
Yep.
I formation. If someone wants to start experimenting with I or Australian formation, where would you have them start? When are the
Yeah.
best times to use it, and how should they go about starting out with that?
Yeah, and again, I think you see it at the college and definitely the pro men's doubles side, the I formation more,
Hmm.
because that one of the strengths of professionals is movement, right? They're in the best shape of their life. They're young. That's what they do every day, and so they have the physicality, the movement, the ability to do all the getting up out of the I formation is not easy over the course of an hour and a half, two
Yeah,
hours.
yeah.
So for the club level players, I would say, try that out a little bit, mix that in. But I think to do it majority of the time is very difficult, getting tired. Sometimes the
Hmm.
server has a hard time and they don't want to hit the net player who's crouched down. And so the visuals definitely different. So I like what you said, mixing in. If somebody's got a good cross court return, You can stand Australian and just stand over on the other side
Mm-hmm.
and kind of pinch the middle and take that away from them and force them to return to the tougher part of the court, the lower percentage, um,
Mm-hmm.
um, and force them down the line. And if you try I formation, if you try Australian, what I would say is as you come up from the I formation or as you stand over already on the Australian, either way, make sure you're pinching a little bit more of that side of the middle. So, for example, if you're my
Mm-hmm.
partner, Will, and I'm the net guy, and you're
Mm-hmm.
serving to the deuce side, and I'm playing I formation. When I pop up, I'm going to come more when I end up in the middle, but on the right side of the net strap,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to sit right there on that right side. If
Yeah.
we go ad side, I'm going to pop up. And if I go once again towards the middle, I'm going to be on the left side of the net strap.
Yeah.
Um, and really, basically, what you're trying to do is over 70% of balls in all of tennis go over that eight to 10 foot window over the net.
Yeah.
Okay, they travels through the middle, and that's why you see a lot of I formation and poaching and taking over the middle because you know that the traffic's coming through there. Most balls are going to
Mm-hmm.
come through the middle. And so I would say just make sure you're protecting and you're really committed to cheating in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then,
You're kind of giving up that like sharp cross court angle because it's just such a low percentage shot.
yep, and you're letting them have the line. You're committed to really getting over there
Mm-hmm.
and sitting in the middle and just kind of we call it cherry picking and just
Mm-hmm.
being able to take away that kind of high percentage return. Most people want to just go cross court to the big part of the court, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the other thing I'd say for the club player, if you play regular, which is what to your point you see more of,
Yeah.
it's much easier to stand up. It's you don't have to come from that crouch position, and so it's a little bit easier on your body and not as taxing over the course of a match. But what I would say to that club player is if you play regular formation, have some hand signals or just communicate to your server partner when you're gonna try and poach
Mm-hmm.
because you want to basically in all of this we talked about when you're the server and server's partner, you're wanting the returner to be uncomfortable and have to overthink, well, where is he going to be? and and
Mm-hmm.
and the more they start worrying about you, now that interrupts their rhythm and their easiness and their just of picking their spot and hitting it on the return. They overthink, and when you overthink, you make errors, and that's what we're wanting to do to the returners. So if you do play regular, don't just the biggest mistake I see, Will, is don't just stand there and not
Yeah.
be and one coach told me that I really love the way you're either moving and you're going full switch and poaching, or you're faking and staying. You're never just staying and standing there stationary. So
Yeah.
you're either faking like you're moving and then you're ready for it down the line, you're staying, or you time it. And just before they start their forward swing on their return, you're going diagonal towards the middle and you're really trying to pick it off. And what I would tell the club player is shade on the side when you do poach from regular. I would move a little bit earlier than not. I would be
Mm-hmm.
earlier than later.
Mm. Why is
So
that?
um, because if you okay, so first of all, again, you're watching the motion of the racket, and to me, the timing mechanism, if I'm the server's partner when I poach from regular, is I'm watching their racket drop, and everybody's got different swings and loops, but as soon as their hand and racket start the forward motion to hit it, I'm gone. I
Yeah.
move. Okay, and if that's even a little bit earlier than that, I like that better than late because if you move late, A, you're probably not there in time, and B, they still could change their mind.
Yeah.
Right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's just better to move a little bit early um, and get in their vision. And in fact, I let me correct myself. Let me go back. I'm sorry. If
You're good.
if you if you move early,
Mm-hmm.
okay, they can change their mind. And the reason I'm correcting myself is if you move early, you can get to that spot, right? Better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you move late, then it's hard to get to that spot. Okay. But going back, if you move too early, and you can say, well, I know, but now they can change their mind, and that's a good
Mm-hmm.
thing for the returner. I'm okay with that because once again, notice what I just said, changing the mind. If you get a returner to change their mind and second guess what they're doing, because I saw Will move, and so now I
Mm-hmm.
was going to go cross court. Now I better go down the line. We want them overthinking, as I said before a minute ago, and changing their mind. So it's
Right.
to me actually a good thing, and that's why I wanted to correct myself there because I think that's why I shade on that side of it a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense. I think the most likely outcome in that case, if you move early, they change their mind, go down the line, is probably a missed return. I
yeah,
think that would probably happen more often than anything else. Certainly more often than like a return winner down the line. Um,
yeah.
and
And
then
if
and then most in a lot of cases, like your partner will cover it because you communicated about it before, right? So,
if you move later, right?
hmm
Um, you weren't as big a visual distraction
yeah,
because you weren't moving, and so the returner had a lot of time to kind of meet the ball and see the ball leave their strings, and then you tried to move late, and so it really didn't distract them.
hmm
And then number two, you're now late to getting to that popular spot diagonally and close to the net for an easier volley. So
yeah,
those two against you. If you time it perfect, great. And if you're early, I think there's more benefits to that as well.
yeah. So the next question, you can take this from a pro level perspective or club. I don't know if it's different for each. Um, there's like kind of a mantra or I don't know, something people say in doubles where it's best to serve down the tee, right?
Yep.
Uh, it's something I've got a bunch of data on this for the ATP and WTA, and I want to run a study on it and figure out like maybe you've done this before, you've seen it, figure out like where is the highest win percentage because I feel like a lot of reports I look at, players serve tee more often, but they have a higher win percentage when they serve out wide. Um, what is your take on that, or do you have like any I don't know experience looking at the data or any knowledge of this that you can share
I
with
do.
us?
And I'm kind of right with you on that. I used to see the tee and go a lot more in
Hmm
years ago in those early stages of the doubles. Um, and I still see it because it's very difficult off the first serve.
hmm
You hit your spot on the tee for somebody stretching to go behind the net player and go
Yeah,
down the line.
you're gonna
Okay.
catch it late. Yeah.
However, um, what players are doing, and like Bolelli does a really good job of this.
hmm
Simone Bolelli from Italy he plays a deuce. He's got his one hander that's in the middle,
hmm
and his forehand's very lethal. So a lot of people would take their second serve and go, "Oh, you got to go to the backhand and kick it up on his one hander," but he's already leaning that way.
mm
Okay, so for second serves, if you go T, a lot of players are already picking and moving that direction because on a big moment, are you really going to take a second serve and go wide and
Yeah, to
surprise them?
his forehand. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
now we use that strategy. That's why I talked to you earlier about Austin and Yvonne exploring the box, especially on
hmm
second serves, keeping them on their toes,
hmm
using a wide serve and going when they don't think you're going to do it.
hmm
Playing I formation, going T, but then staying. So if they go down the line, the net player's already there. And so for a first serve, I still like the stats that if you do go if you go, I think you have a high percentage of winning the point. But I'm with you. I've seen the stats, and I love, especially indoors, the grass courts. I
Yeah.
love where you use the surface and use the slice for a righty on the deuce or Austin on the ad, and let that court bite the ball and let that ball trail away from the returner, and you can play you can play regular and go, you can play regular and probably stay more often, because that's tough to get that return cross court. So you got to really protect your line.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely I think once again it's about exploring the box and mixing it up, and not only on first serves. I think mixing it up on second serves where you go wide on the deuce, or down the tee on the ad for
Mm-hmm.
you right um, servers, and then also mixing up faking, staying, I formation on second serves as well is just very, very key. Because I think the returners have gotten a lot better. It used to be about the advantage to the server, and I think
Mm-hmm.
have just gotten a lot better, and players understand tendencies and when to cheat over to those T serves and
Mm-hmm.
pick it up. So
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Um, all right, we're coming up on an hour, so I feel like we could talk for another 3 hours about some of this strategy stuff. It's a lot of fun. But I do want to respect your time and let you go here soon. So let's
well,
get to the last
I can, yeah. I'll definitely come back on another time. It's always
yeah.
a pleasure being on the podcast and talking tennis with you. We've had, like you said, we started back in 2021, and you and I've kept in touch, and appreciate all your support, and then always rooting for me and my players. And so I'm happy to jump on another time as well.
Yeah, yeah, we'll definitely do a round two. Do you have 3 minutes for a couple rapid fire questions?
Yep.
Okay. What is your favorite tennis book?
Hmm. You know, I would probably say I really liked Winning Ugly.
Okay.
um, and it about being prepared, your bag, learning the percentages, and that sometimes it's okay to survive. I talked to Austin about that with these good returners nowadays, and you have a half volley, and a guy might be poaching. Hey, sometimes it's okay to survive another shot, and it's okay to give the opponents the opportunity to destruct. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes in this modern game, we got to hit the winner. We got to hit the better shot. You hit a return, I got to hit a better shot. But in a lot of instances, Bob and Mike were so good at just neutralizing and making another ball. And sometimes putting the pressure back onto the other side with just a solid ball surviving and letting them self-destruct a little bit. So Winning Ugly
Yeah.
talks percentages and hanging in there and doing whatever it takes. Find My college coach Paul Lockwood at OU used to say, find a way
Yeah.
to win. So that's probably that's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I definitely have to say, from a personal standpoint, I was featured in a book with six other coaches, and it was tennis
Mental
mental.
Toughness 101. Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw that here. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
101 by Greg Levine, and he did a great job of kind of a question interview style. So each coach was a chapter, and I was fortunate to be picked for one chapter there, and talked about a lot of the things we discussed on the podcast today, you and I, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to understand there's a lot of little losses along the way in a tennis match, in a tennis season, in a week. For some of you club players that you play your season, you're gonna lose points, and you don't have to be perfect. And so learn how to flush it, learn how to turn the page, and just move forward very quickly, because that 1 point value wise is not that big a deal. That
Mm-hmm.
miss that you maybe had for break point, that you're magnifying in your mind and your world, is really
Mm-hmm.
not that big in the scope of, really, at the end of the day, you need 52, 53, 54, 55% of points in that match to win the match. You don't need 70, 80, 90, and 100% of points to win a tennis match. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I would say that's another great book to just get some inside scoop of some of the coaches' mindset.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll link to both of those in the show notes. What's your favorite non-tennis book?
Um, the Four Agreements of Life,
Okay, I don't know
and
that
it's,
one.
yep, the Four Agreements of Life. Um, it's not a thick book. It'll take
Okay.
you a couple days to read, if that. It keeps it's simple, But it's about life. That to me, it transfers into relationships, coaching, mentoring, tennis, competing, and the four agreements. Each one's a chapter, and it hits home, and it helps me a lot, and it's helped my players. And it's basically, um, don't take things so personal.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try not to make assumptions. Half the time they're not even true, and you drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
Don't take things personal. You think it's about you and all this, and you find out you stressed all this time about it, and it wasn't
Yeah.
even yeah. Number three is be impeccable with your word, and that just means when you say something, you mean it. And
Mm-hmm.
um, and then the last one is always try your best. Always give 100% and do the best you can. And then you're going to feel good about kind of how you went about it. And a lot of
Yeah.
those are just trying to relieve stress and alleviate all this pressure that we put internally and overthink. And remember, when that happens in tennis, we make mistakes, we make errors, and then it's harder to win matches. And when you do it in life, you're tired, you're not having as much fun, just because you're overthinking and you're really putting a lot of pressure on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So four agreements of life is a good one.
Great advice. I'll definitely read that soon. What's your favorite tournament?
Definitely French Open.
Okay.
It was before, at first Grand Slam with Bob and Mike,
Yeah.
2003, very special. They finished number one, made the Davis Cup team. I have those memories. I have the picture with us in the morning with their agent, John Tobias, with the trophy in front of the Arc de Triomphe. 20 years later with Austin winning the first Grand Slam with him and becoming number one in the world. Those pictures with him and Yvonne and the team and all the family and friends that were there. Those moments, the celebrations back home with all my friends and staff at Lakes Tennis Academy and just all the people that have helped us with courts and players at SMU to Dallas Country Club on the clay courts and Lakes Tennis Academy and here. It's just been awesome celebrating Austin's accomplishments with all those people that have helped. And my wife was with me last year, pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
and she went through that match, that loss,
Yeah.
having 3 points. And so, a year later, I've got my son Finn Parker Farmer, and so 4 months old, they're watching at home, and I FaceTime them in the players box after they won it to get that special memory and screenshot of it, which I have. And of course, I see my son, and he's just happy to be on the phone with dad, and my wife has some tears of joy, and so of course I break down and shed some tears of happiness and joy for my wife and son and family, and for Austin and his family. And it was just an amazing moment. And like I said, 20 years ago, to have had that moment with Bob and Mike, those three players, Bob, Mike, and Austin, are very, very special to me. And so that tournament really kind of brings us all together. And so a little bit of a long answer there because it came with a special some stories, but I'd have to say the French Open is
Yeah.
definitely my favorite tournament.
Yeah. No, that's a great answer. So last question for you. How do we make doubles more popular?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's a complicated answer.
Yeah, and I would say, let me give you a couple things. I think I do think speeding it up has helped make singles players play more. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Yvonne Austin just beat two singles guys in the final of Queens,
Mm-hmm.
Lehecka and Taylor Fritz. So that's good
Fritz.
guys in there.
And the
Curious Coco,
crowd was good too. I watched on TV. The
yeah,
crowd looked great.
very good. Curious Kokonakis winning Australia 2 years ago, making Turin, and then
Mm-hmm.
Hijikata and Kubler winning it in Australia again. Two singles guys, great energy. So I think having the singles guys there helps. We just got to make sure there's not so many defaults, and that's what you run with having
Yeah.
singles guys there and not being able to play. But I think we can manage that. I think, I talked to Bob Ryan and Mike, they played fast. They didn't do a ton of communicating. Obviously, I know they're identical twins, but there was a quick signal, a quick communication, and a lot of times they're doing. But they also wanted to play quick because it suited them better, faster, more energy. And nowadays, I think it can get a little long. I think it can take away from the rhythm of the player. I talked to Austin about it a little bit, but from a watching standpoint, I think to grow the doubles game, we can speed it up by maybe even making it quicker in between points, that shot clock even quicker, believe it or not. I know some players may not like that and takes a while to get used to, but I just think from the fans' experience, if it can just they can get more play in and not have such long matches, because you're really not having tons of long points in today's doubles game. And so if it's and freer and fun, and I think you can also play music more, put it, in Europe last fall, they put all of our doubles matches in, and I want to say it was Florence indoors, were all on stadium court, amazing crowds. Why? Because they put from day one, that Monday, they put doubles matches on stadium court. They mixed those in there, and the crowd got used to it, and then you can market it better. And so I think speed it up, put it on TV more, put it on stadium courts more, and put some marketing into the doubles. It's hard with teams that are changing, but if you have doubles teams that are together and just in general, the doubles game, I think you can market that a little bit more and get some more fan support.
Yeah, totally agree. Awesome, Phil. Well, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it.
You bet, buddy. Yeah, my pleasure. And I love coming on, talking tennis, on and off the court with you, talking. Obviously, I have a huge love for doubles, and I know you do as well. And so I appreciate having me on. Appreciate always chatting with you. And like I said, man, I appreciate your support, and always positive and looking to make the game and tennis singles, doubles, and put it in a better place. So I appreciate you doing that as well.
Awesome. Thanks a ton. To everyone listening, we'll link to everything in the show notes, and I will talk to you all next week. If you want to become a smarter doubles player and start winning more matches, then join the Tennis Tribe Doubles Strategy newsletter. Every single Thursday, I'll send you a new doubles tip or tactic that you can use in your very next match. And when you join, you're going to get a free guide on how to play with more confidence and start dominating at the net in doubles. My name's Will. I'm the founder of the Tennis Tribe, and over the last 5 years, I've worked with players at every level of the game, from USTA 3.0 players all the way to Division I college programs, as well as some of the top 10 doubles players in the world. And on Thursdays, with this strategy newsletter, I share that knowledge and advice that I've gained over the years with you. So to sign up, you can go to thetennistribe.com. And again, you'll get that free net play guide when you join.